Council candidates, Mr. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Alan Clendenin, and thank you for inviting me.
Mr. Clendenin, thank you so much. Now, this is actually one of the candidates that I know the best because he has been one of our fighters in the Democratic Party. He's given so much time, so much of his treasure as well to the party. So I'm so happy that he's here with us today. Okay, so you know what? We always start from the beginning. And where were you born?
I'm a Floridian. I was actually born.
You are?
I am. I was born in Sanford, Florida. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood.
Really?
My family was extremely poor. When I say poor, I mean like really poor. Like we were lucky if we had a biscuit for dinner for it sometimes.
Okay.
And we lived in a little one of those government subsidized houses that they built back then. It was a little concrete block house with jalousie windows. Lived with my grandparents. 411 Bay Avenue. I don't even know why that address sticks in my head, but maybe it's some of
What
even
town
though
did you say that was?
Sanford, Central
Sanford,
Florida. Yeah,
Florida.
Sanford, Florida. And maybe some of my best memories were there because one, while we were poor, I didn't know we were poor because of course I was a kid. I had a tree house, we had a fort, and we emptied a lot across the street, and
Spent a lot of time outdoors, probably.
exactly with no shirt, no shoes, and digging in the dirt and hanging with friends and fishing. I would go out and dig for worms on the shores of Lake Monroe with an old Folgers coffee can and a cane pole and a bob and stick out a line and catch bluegill and
That
put them on a
sounds like
string.
Mayberry RFD.
Oh, it wasn't quite Mayberry RFD because sometimes it wasn't as happy of a story. But
Okay.
you have all these life experiences that make you more diversified and stronger as an adult. And my grandmother was a cashier at Winn-Dixie. My grandfather was a butcher at Winn-Dixie. I come from a family of divorce, and there was a lot of trauma and drama referenced that. And I lived in Central Florida most of my childhood, or all of my childhood. We bounced around, but I went to a lot of schools. Went to I think it's like 15 or 17 schools between kindergarten,
Wow.
kindergarten and,
And
and high
that's because
school.
you were constantly moving?
Yeah, we bounced from place to place. My mother married lots of times, and divorce and trauma and all of that stuff. That a lot of I share that story with a lot of other folks. That it's.
How many siblings do you have?
I have one. I have a sister.
Okay.
I have a sister, and she's doing very well. We both kind of, again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It makes you a stronger adult. And as an adult, because of my upbringing, some of the struggles that we had, I'm kind of that mindset. Like, throw me a curveball. I can duck and duck and weave. There's nothing you can throw at me that I haven't seen, even at
So
a
did you
younger
end
age.
up staying in school?
I did. I was in public school, a lot of public schools, and I was one of those kids. When I do have a passion for public education, partially because public education failed me as a child. Because I bounced around from kid to kid. No, I never had a teacher that really looked
Took
at
an
me,
interest in you.
took an interest in me, or realized kind of what we were dealing with, or even talked to me about possibilities. I was just someone that started, went through the process, and went on. I never had anything like that. I never had, and so I can relate to a lot of kids in public education.
So
and
you
problems
went through grade school, and then you went through. Did you go to college?
I did. Actually, I went to. I knew there was more for me in life, and I think that's one positive thing my mother instilled in me is that just because this is where you are doesn't mean it's where you're going to go. And I knew I needed to do something else. I worked full time since I was 14 years old, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs. My first job was working at a flea market selling bootleg 8-track tapes. Okay, that ages me a little bit. Then I was a bus.
That tells us a little bit about what time it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I was a bus boy at a restaurant at a Holiday Inn in Altamont Springs. And I delivered newspapers. Then I went to worked at Disney when I turned 16 years old as a janitor. I was a janitor and a bus boy.
So did you go to college?
I did. I went from there to Valencia Community College for 2 years.
Great start for a lot of people.
But the only reason I was even able to do that is because of assistance. If it wasn't for Pell Grants and government loans and that hand up, I couldn't afford to go to even a community college
And
at that time.
they're coming at public, any kind of public health for education is under fire.
Yes, they are. And
Affirmative action, all that.
I'm a walking example of what a little bit of assistance can do to help somebody out of a bad situation.
Out of poverty.
And I lived it. I know what that feels like. I ended up going from there, as I decided, I got really excited. I took a geology course at Valencia, and it was that I'm going to be a geologist, because riding when you're 18 years old, riding a donkey in the jungles of South America sounds like a great time. So I ended up going to
Not for me, but anyway.
I went to the University of Colorado for the next 2 years to be a geologist. I took a lot of hydrology courses and glacial classes and a lot of things back then. But then the air traffic controller strike happened, and we had a large air traffic control center not too far from Boulder, where I was in school. And a lot of my friends were going to take this test to be an air traffic controller. I didn't even know what air traffic controller was at the time, but I was kind of a geek and a weirdo. I used to like to take tests. And they said, hey, fill out this form. It's just a little postcard, and sign up to take the test. So I filled it out, signed it. I was the only one amongst my friends that passed it.
Really?
Or I took the test, passed the test. Went on interviews, because a high school teacher did tell me one time, go on interviews for practice, so that you have that practice for jobs that you don't even care about, so that when you really want a job, that you've had that experience. So I went on. They called me up on a Friday, said, can you be in Oklahoma City on Monday morning? We'll pay you $17,000 a year, $33 a day.
That was big money back
then. It was
then.
huge money. I'm thinking, and it was in the summer, and I was
And
just
it was regular pay.
and I was looking for a summer job, and I said, you're going to pay me? You're going to pay me to go to school? And I said, yeah, I can be in Oklahoma City on Monday. So we packed up everything, went to Oklahoma City, got there on Monday. I went to school for 3 months. 6 out of 30 passed that class. I was one of those 6.
Oh my
and the rest of history, I spent the next 32 years in air traffic control. Became a union organizer. Because Ronald Reagan had just fired these controllers, and growing up poor, I had no relationship to organized labor. In Florida especially, which is right, no connection at all. Well, I learned rapidly when I got into air traffic that the president had fired the wrong half of that workforce. I mean, that the management was in such bad shape, the equipment was in such bad shape, the American public was in danger because of what was happening.
Goodness.
Those people lost their jobs fighting for other people.
Right.
Well, seriously, when I was working and training, people would punch you if you made a mistake, physically assault you. So I became...
That won't happen twice.
Yeah, it would. I had just come from Disney to that. That was a cultural shock. So I became a union organizer. I helped organize the Air Traffic Controllers Union. In just a couple of years, we broke every record on the books of organizing in all 50 states plus the territories. We ended up with 97% union membership. And,
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and then I held every position in organized labor. We called it a facility rep. A lot of places call shop steward. And I was a regional. I was an arbitrator. I was a negotiator. I did every kind of role you can think of on the labor management relations side of the house. But I've always been a geek in politics. My first volunteer on a campaign was for Jimmy Carter. There I go dating myself again. But if people that are watching, they can see from my bald head that I'm not that
Yay
young.
for Jimmy Carter.
So that was my first volunteer experience in political campaigns. I've always been interested in it.
He always got a bad rap. And you know what? He has made it awesome after the presidency.
Well, I think if you look back at his policies, he was right on everything. And had the nation gone with his vision, the failings.
One more term.
The failings of the Carter administration is because he was an outsider, which everybody says they want. But then when they get there, they realize that all these doors shut in their face, and they can't get the coalitions together to be able to move an agenda forward, and that was the biggest failing. But yeah, so I ended up in the union. I switched over to the legislative side, and helped create this aggressive labor legislative policy and teams, all from, again, local, regional. And for 6 years, I was elected nationally. I had an office in Washington. I'd fly up on Sundays, come back on Thursdays.
That is so impressive.
I was part of this is the best part. I was part of a group that helped lobby the White House, and I worked with Vice President Gore and his labor person in the West Wing. We became the first union in history in the federal sector to be able to negotiate salaries and benefits. And that was really a change between just really working and really being paid and doing well and having
And we want to pay our air traffic controllers well. That's for sure.
Well, you should at least be paid a living wage like everybody else. You should,
my gosh.
because up until that point,
Because
I
now they're
raised
paid very well.
I raised two kids, and I would have to tell you, I was maxed out on credit cards, and I mean, I've lived the same story that other people. So the entire time my kids were growing up until they were like in high school, it was day to day. It was budgeting. We lived in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. We had a scheduled bathroom time, which my daughter was not really thrilled with.
Right.
But so I knew what that was like, and it wasn't until we were able to negotiate salary and benefits that part of my life changed. That I had I didn't have to live on credit cards, and I didn't have to worry about how I was going to budget to go to Publix the next week.
That is wonderful. So how would you say that union is doing now?
It's one of the strong. It's funny because there's not that many members. It's a really small membership. They've expanded to other workforces, but the air traffic controller part of it's about somewhere around 13,000-ish, maybe a little more. I've lost track because I've been retired. But for that small group, we're one of the largest political action committees in Washington, the most powerful in this, because we had such a huge participation. Everybody understood that their future relied on politics, and I think that's kind of a message that we need to get out to everybody, your listeners and everybody else, how much politics plays a role in your day-to-day lives. They make decisions that affect you from the moment you wake up to the moment you lay your head on your pillow at night.
Especially local politics.
Oh, absolutely. Hence, one of the reasons why I'm running for Tampa City Council.
Absolutely, because we're going to talk, when we come back in the next segment, we're going to talk a lot about all the issues that are facing Tampa Bay, and it's a lot. And, it's not just Tampa, but we're getting a big piece of the action on a lot of issues.
Oh, yes, we are. The state of Florida is, and Tampa's epicenter right now. We've got a lot of issues that are before the city, and we're at a crossroads that we're going to turn right or we're going to turn left. And I want to make sure we make that right turn.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
The correct turn.
The correct turn. All right, we'll be back in a minute.
Wow. So I had a very similar upbringing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I took the post office exam back in 1974. 75 5,000 started out became vice president.
Yeah, I knew I liked you.
Yeah,
I had eyes on you.
I was really very active.
Yep.
Did a lot of regional national conferences, did a lot of negotiations, contract negotiations, the whole 9 yards. Ended up retiring manager,
Right. Yeah, I missed that part of it. I did spend the last half. I was a pro-union manager. I managed the Tampa Radar Approach Control and Control Tower, and I managed the Service Operations and Operation, and I was the deputy manager of San Antonio, the second largest there.
But there is definitely a need for labor.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Our young got
is the best place for your cancer concerns and to provide guidance to help you plan your next steps. We're here for you. Call 1-888-456-2839.
I cannot see his face at all.
Okay.
Your camera's there. Okay, we're back, and this is such an exciting conversation with one of our current city council members, soon to be a city council member, now a candidate, Mr. Alan Clendenin.
Your lips to God's ears. That's absolutely.
That was a good slip of the tongue there.
Yes, it was.
All right. So, most of the folks really don't have time to delve into local politics, hence the reason for the show. Can you tell us how many people are on the city council right now and their names?
Yeah, absolutely. Tampa our government consists of a mayor and 7 members of a city council, which is the legislative body. And that body is, the primary responsibility is controlling the budget. So they pass a budget once a year. and they do a lot of land use. And there's some other incidental things, but that's the nitty gritty of what Tampa City Council does. So we have there's 7 districts. 3 of them are citywide, and 4 of them are single member districts. So the 3 that are citywide are districts 1, 2, and 3, and then the single member districts are districts 4, 5, 6, and 7. Currently in District 1, that's the race that I'm running in, the incumbent's name is Joseph Citro. I'll talk about Joseph later.
Okay.
District 2 is, because we have some flip-flops going on right now, so I have to remember who's currently sitting in the seat versus who's running for the seat. District 2 is Charlie Miranda. And
He's been there like 9 different races. I think this is like his 9th time.
a long time. I think there was horses and wagons in downtown Tampa when he first started serving. I think he'll tell you the same thing. District 3 is Lynn Hertek, who was appointed by council when John Dingfelder resigned. District 4 is Councilman Bill Carlson. District 5 is Orlando Goods. And District 6 is currently held by Guido Maniscalco. District 7 is Luis Vieira, which is District 7, just a perspective, is mostly New Tampa, going over to Forest Hills. So it goes really from the Pasco County border all the way down to Forest Hills. District 6 is northern Tampa generally, and then it's got this kind of a swing down where it captures part of South Tampa along the west side of the West Shore.
That's Carlson, right?
No, that would be Guido
Okay,
Guido Maniscalco.
So that has
And
some West Tampa in it?
It does. It
Okay.
does. I'm sorry, I said north. It's West Tampa, and
Okay.
it swings down south. What did I leave off? I said District 5 is Orlando Goods, which is Ybor City and East Tampa mostly, Sulphur Springs, and a little bit of Seminole Heights. District 4 is Bill Carlson, which is mostly South Tampa.
And
Yeah.
Mr. Carlson will be our guest next week.
Very nice. Tell him I said hi.
Yes, and he's going to grace us with his presence. Yay!
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Okay, so in number 1, who are you running against in that race?
I am running against the same guy I ran against last time and missed getting in the runoff by 54 votes in a citywide seat. So that tells you that every vote matters. It was 54 votes. So his name is Joe Citro. If you've read the newspapers recently, you've read a lot of things about Joseph Citro. None of them have been very good. He's an interesting soul.
And
God, as my grandmother said, bless his heart.
and he's a hairdresser.
And
I
he's-
believe that is his profession.
He is. He's been a hairdresser, actually practicing cutting hair without a license because his license expired early last year. FYI, I think y'all are the first ones that actually said that too. But doing some investigation, it looks like he is.
You already talked to the city council about that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and you are also running in that race again with Sonja Brookins, I believe.
Yeah, in this race, I'm Sonja Brookins. Her and I get along very well. We're not running against each other. We're running in the same race. I'm also running with a guy named Chase Harrison. And so there's 4
Well, let
of
me
us.
just say one thing about Sonja Brookins. She is our former Soil and Water Commissioner.
Yes.
And unfortunately, due to the rule change by DeSantis, she was kicked out of that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was elected. And now we talk about Chase Harrison, who's a serial candidate. He was in the county commission race, and then he lost there. Now he's in the city council race, and he is a Republican. I can say that.
Yeah, I because of rules, as a candidate, I can talk to you about my positions that I've held within the Democratic Party, which we haven't really done yet. But I can talk about the positions, but it's a nonpartisan race, so I can't say one way or another about myself and party affiliation, or my opponents about party affiliation. But I can talk about the positions that I've held or hold.
I see. Well, I can tell you that do not vote for Chase Harrison. He's a Republican. Okay, and well, let's talk about what I think about Republicans and what's going on right now.
I have a thought or two about that too.
Yes, it is going to come out. Okay, so I think you have a very good chance.
You know, it looks that way. I think, again, look, I missed it last time by 54 votes. I've got the Tampa Bay Times did me a real solid. They gave me a great glowing a recommendation. I've had a lot of support from people who a lot of people probably know that listen to this podcast and Tampa endorsements. I've been endorsed by just a laundry list. All the labor unions in town have endorsed me. The Classroom Teachers Association, the electrical workers, the communication people, the iron workers. They've all come on board. I've got names that have endorsed me, like our former clerk of the circuit court, Pat Frank, who I know is beloved by so many people. Our leader in the Florida House with the Democratic side, Fentress Driscoll, Representative Diane Hart, Bishop Tom Scott, who also was a former elected city council and county commissioner. I could just go down. There's a long, long list of folks that have
Did you
supported
say
me.
the police union?
Yes, I have been endorsed by the police union.
And so I want to know, did you get the question, the Black Lives Matter question?
I did, and by the way, they're a union, and I'm a union guy, so that's yes.
So that's why you got it.
Yeah. I'm a strong union supporter, and they appreciate my union support, my union credentials, and they know that sitting on city council, I'm going to have the back of my labor brothers and sisters. And I understand what it's like again to be a member of a labor union in public service, and that you need that balance, you need that representation, and whenever a decision is before me about issues, I'm going to always think favorably of labor.
Absolutely. And I just want to let you all know, the labor unions are actively hiring. They have apprenticeships.
They do.
Paid. You get a pension for life, you get a job for life, and you get health benefits.
Yeah, I was one of the early supporters of the apprenticeship program. As a matter of fact, one of the first ones was in Pinellas County long, long ago. And I helped the folks that were pushing that agenda through to lobby the politicians in Pinellas County to pass that apprenticeship program. That was a model for what we ended up bringing over to this side of the bay. So, I've been on board with the apprenticeship program again, strong labor supporter. And I think those types of programs, again, just like we talked about my background, giving a hand up change life as a path out of poverty, a path out of which current circumstances. Apprenticeship programs change people's lives, and also, we have shortage of people that skilled labor.
Absolutely.
And so
people are retiring every day.
And it doesn't just change the individuals' lives; it changes our city, because these are the people that are going to be building Tampa. And
guess what? You get one union job in the house, it changes the family.
Absolutely, 100%.
So I can tell you, some of the unions that are looking right now are the iron workers. All the carpentry, all the things that you think about what it takes to build a house, electrical. They are all looking for apprenticeships right now.
Yeah,
man or woman.
And I'm sure you've been out there to tour their facilities.
I have.
It's amazing what they do for people and the programs,
Crane operators,
the education that they provide, the type of skills that they provide people. You don't have to have experience. They give you the knowledge and the work, and then it's a ticket to success. So people just need to be contacted.
So if you have a young person in your house that's wavering and you don't think they're college bound, here's a way up.
Quite honestly, I think it's not even just the folks that are not college bound, but maybe it's a choice. There's people that actually, they want to be able to work with their hands. They want to be able to that type of an occupation, and it's a great and it's a proud occupation, and again, provides opportunity for folks to get into the middle class.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's start talking about some of the issues that are meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, the issues that are important to me because of my political background and being let's talk a little bit about kind of the elephant in the room of what I've done. I've been a member of, I currently sit on the Democratic National Committee. I'm on the executive board of the Democratic National Committee, and I'm the Southern Caucus chair of the Democratic National Committee. And what that means is that I represent all the states from Virginia, swinging all down south to Florida, and then all the way west to Texas. So
wow.
I represent
That's like half the country right now.
1/4 of the country. So I represent 25% of the nation at the DNC, and most of those states have done.
Let's tell them what the DNC is.
Democratic National Committee. The Democratic Party is organized structurally like a lot of organizations are. Where the DNC is the national part of the Democratic Party. So they're the governing body of the entire Democratic Party, and while we have the White House like we currently do, they operate as a committee representing the president and then his reelection efforts. When we don't have the White House, we operate as an opposition party, and we fight for that. So I was in Philadelphia last week, and I helped whip votes for the president's change, his agenda, and his change of the primary calendar to push South Carolina to first in the primary process, so that folks that look like the Democratic Party have a stronger voice in the Democratic Party in the choice of who we make to be the next president of the United States.
And let's not forget that Representative Clyburn and South Carolina saved us
Representative
from Donald Trump.
He's a good friend of mine, and he did. And I whipped votes to ensure that calendar was passed. And I'm proud to say that I was able to whip the Southern Caucus that 100% of the states and 100% of the representatives from those states voted in favor of that calendar change. It didn't make us very popular with my friends from New Hampshire, but it's the right thing to do for the Democratic Party. And I think that it's going to propel us to victory in 2024.
Awesome. I love the sound of that. You know, you can say what you want about President Biden. He may be old, but he's not crazy.
Yeah.
And I think he proved that last night.
You know, I think that was a mic drop moment. I watched that speech last night, and I think
watched every minute.
that was one of the best State of the Union addresses I've ever heard.
They covered so many topics.
If people did not watch that, I urge you, go to YouTube or
C-SPAN,
anywhere where you can watch it on demand. You can go back and look at it, because I'm going to go back and watch it again, because I need to learn some of those speaking points. And those techniques.
Because he was right in their face.
He took people to church. I mean, he took them to church, and he did it so eloquently and so well. I think a lot of the opposition there and the GOP, they had to wake up this morning shaking their heads and had to been embarrassed with themselves, because one of the
Huckabee was very dark.
Oh, man,
and very scary.
You want a vision of what the GOP is going to do to the United States of America? Go back and watch Governor Huckabee give their opposition speech after the president spoke. And that is their version of what they want America to be.
And you know what? We want CRT, okay? We want critical race theory when it comes to racism, teaching race in America. We want to be woke.
Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with education. There's nothing wrong with visiting where we've been and where we're going and how we got here to today. And I think that's part of it. It's you know, you can bury your head in the sand and deny, but it doesn't change the facts. And
that's right. They're working with a different set of facts.
They're working with,
they're not facts.
Oh, I was going to say, they're not working with a different set of facts. They're working with delusion and lies.
Well, you know what? We went off on a tangent there.
Yeah, we did.
On national politics, but we're going to bring it home to Tampa, I promise, when we come back.
Absolutely. You can take me down that rabbit hole so easily.
I know. Especially with the State of the Union last night. It was hard not to talk about it.
Yeah, it's so topical.
Hey, you have an ad for that guy, Sam Cohen?
It's next.
Compromised condition.
Well,
if you are newly
it's scheduled for next. Let's see if it plays. Should. Sometimes, the first time. But it should play.
And to provide guidance to
So when does this post?
your next steps.
Today. It's live.
Oh, it's live.
It's live on his website.
Yes.
Okay.
2839.
It's
Or
live.
go to marfa.org
In touch
Okay.
here for you.
But I'll give you a copy. Please shoot it out there.
Yeah, well, I don't know, let's see how I am before I decide whether I'm going to shoot it out there.
Wait a minute, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Keep it. Can you keep it on just the two of us for the rest of it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It didn't come through. I'm going to have to.
All right.
It'll go to the next one.
Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
We don't need a rib man. We don't need him. Hey there. I am so happy you are with us this morning because we have a very important race coming up in Tampa. Let's tell the people it's March 7th
It is March 7th.
And that is coming up fast and furious.
Well, people who've requested vote by mail ballots have their ballots in the mailbox right now. And if you haven't requested a vote by mail, I don't know if y'all know, but the governor of the state of Florida, I don't like to mention the man's name, but he actually,
I will call it DeSantis.
yeah, he actually, in an effort
Voter suppression.
to suppress the vote, he took away everybody's vote by mail requests. They all expired after last November's election. If you think you are getting a vote by mail ballot and you have not gotten it, it's because he stripped it away. All you need to do, though, is go to votehillsborough.gov, and you can request it online or call the supervisor's office and request your vote by mail ballot, and they'll get it to you.
That is your Hillsborough County Supervisor election. So just put
Yep.
vote in Hillsborough. Anything you can think of to put in your search web engine. Get your vote by mail requested today.
And that'll be good for 2 years. If you request it today for the
Okay.
next 2 years worth of elections. The good thing about living in Hillsborough County versus some of the Republican counties in the state is our supervisor election, Craig Latimer, puts a postage paid envelope for you to mail them in. Some counties don't do that. You actually have to put like $1 or something worth of postage on it.
Really?
But at Hillsborough County, you mail it back for free. It's already paid for. All you have to do is fill it out.
That is a huge, big deal.
Yeah,
right
slap
there.
it back in the envelope, put it back in the mailbox,
You know
and
how
it's
many
gone.
people are gonna just vote in the mail and not even think they had to put postage on it?
Right, exactly.
Outside
Oh, in
of
some,
town?
some of these counties, yeah, but in Hillsborough County, you don't have to worry about that. So it's literally like a 3 or 4 minute process of voting. No fuss, no muss. You don't have to dig for stamps or go down to Publix or the post office and buy them. It's all prepaid.
Okay, so just to let you know, this is our mayoral race, but as far as we can tell, she's in.
The mayor is running against blank. There's going to be a blank line
There's a-
for write-in.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, all
yeah.
right, 'cause,
There's a blank line.
all right, so we're just gonna have Mayor Jane Casper again. And then, when it comes to, seat 7, we know that Mr. Luis Vieira
Ran unopposed.
ran unopposed and he's in.
Correct.
So really, it's 6 seats we're looking at.
Absolutely. All 6 seats. It's kind of, people ask this a lot. This is a common question about, we don't stagger elections in Tampa. So our mayor and all 7 city council seats are always up at the same time. So potentially, you could have 100% change out of elected officials. So there's no staggering, which is kind of, honestly, it's kind of odd. But because politics is politics, it doesn't really normally happen that way. But yeah, you could have, and then we have people that jump seats. Like we have a term limits in the city council. You can only run for 2 terms in the seat that you're holding. But if you fulfill that 2 terms in one seat, if it's a single member district, after your 2 terms, you can jump to a citywide seat and run again and serve another 2 terms. And so we have 2 councilmen, Charlie
That are
Miranda,
going to do that.
correct,
Yes.
and Guido Maniscalco are doing that right now. But it happens. It's a very, very common
Ben
thing.
Hagan is famous for doing that
That's
on the
a-
Hillsborough County
Yeah,
Commission.
very common.
He's been on there
thing.
for 20 years, going for his 24th year.
Right.
I ran against him, trying
Yep.
to stop that, but
I voted for you.
thank you. Appreciate that. All right, and I just want to let you know that there are some highly contested races. Lynn Hurtak has picked up Janet Cruz is her competitor, who is the mother-in-law to the mayor. So we're hoping that Lynn Hurtak can hang in there strong because she has been an awesome city councilwoman. And then we have Bill Carson has picked up a very strong competitor. Mr. Casper, as in owning about, I don't know, like 60 McDonald's locations and just sold them. Now he's a billionaire. So we're going to try to hope that Mr. Bill Carson can hang in there too because he's been awesome.
Well, that gets into partisan politics as well.
Yes,
So,
it does.
yeah,
It does.
So I'm looking forward to serving with whoever's elected in those other seats because I'm
Yes.
going to represent everybody in the city of Tampa and let everybody else make a decision of who they support in those races. I have some personal favorites, probably the same personal favorites that you have, but I'll
Just to let the people know, yeah, we got you got to be. Please, if you don't know who's on your ballot, call me 813-476-4837 if you need help with your ballot. But right now we have Mr. Glendenin, and let's talk about housing because that's a big issue in Tampa.
You know, it's a big issue in Tampa. It's a big issue in the state of Florida, the United States, and honestly the entire Western world. We have a crisis of affordable, attainable, and also the missing middle of working class housing. It's something I tell you,
Often referred to as workforce housing.
workforce housing. It's something we have to seek some solutions for, because we can't keep building Tampa for people that might be deciding to move here. We need, and a lot of our policies, and this may be one of my motivations for running for city council. I love the city of Tampa. I chose to live here 37 years ago. I moved here 37 years ago to raise my family. I have 2 kids that went to public schools.
Okay.
So I moved here 37 years ago because of what Tampa is. With these eclectic and very interesting neighborhoods, the cultural diversity, it was very important to me to live in a culturally diverse community.
We represent everybody here.
Well, and
in Tampa.
similar to I wanted my kids to have similar to my upbringing. I wasn't behind a wall. I wasn't behind a gate. I was in the streets with real people. And I think that made me a better adult. It made me a better human being. It made me a great representative of the
I
Democratic.
believe diversity is our strength.
It is our strength. I wanted the bilingual aspect of the city of Tampa. I love the fact that we have this strong Latin influence and strong Hispanic influence in the city of Tampa.
And African American.
And African, exactly. That's
Yes.
what I'm obsessed about diversity. We have a colorful quilt of people that live in the city. Who are we building the city of Tampa for? Is it the people that live here or the people that want to live here? I think we've gone through this really robust period of growth of building a lot of infrastructure for folks that are coming to Tampa. And maybe that pendulum swung a little too far one direction, and we forgot about the folks that are working here, struggling to raise a family, and kind of built these incredible neighborhoods into what they are today. And we need to redirect our focus towards that. I really am going to be a strong neighborhood advocate. I'm not
Keeping our neighborhoods active and alive.
I'm not opposed to development. I'm not opposed to growth. We can't build a wall around the city of Tampa. We live in a country with freedom of movement, and people will move what they're going to do. We have to accommodate that. But I also want to make sure that there's balance. I want to make sure that in the process of building what Tampa is going to become, we don't lose what Tampa is. I don't want to turn this into anywhere USA. I don't want to live in a city of Tampa that doesn't have a strong Black community, that doesn't have a strong Latin community, that doesn't have a vibrant LGBT community. Quite frankly, I don't want to live in a community that doesn't have a suburb beautiful or Hyde Park or downtown business core or all these, every little piece is a puzzle or a little swath of fabric in the quilt of Tampa, and we really have to protect that.
And people have to keep in mind, look, if you go to the hospital, do you want someone to take care of you?
Right.
If you step into a restaurant, do you want someone to be able to serve you food?
Well, I have a firsthand
Where
story.
they gonna live?
I have a firsthand story about healthcare. I had a nurse practitioner, in which they make decent money. They left Tampa because they couldn't afford the rent here. So I lost a really good healthcare provider because they couldn't afford. And if a nurse practitioner can't afford rent here, what chance does the little guy that's working at a mom and pop store or doing say unskilled labor, what chances do they have? The rent is going to continue to escalate. People are going to be forced out of houses. People are going to be forced out of Tampa, and we're going to lose everything that's wonderful about the city.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you a personal story. I'm a Medicare health and life agent. Make a decent living. I found it very hard to buy a house. And thank God my son stepped in, helped me. He is a mortgage, he does mortgages. He's an SBA lender, a banker. And he helped, he bought the house for me. And thank God, because he said, you know what, I was going to, my rent was going to go up to $1,700. My mother's rent is at $1,200. He said, it's time to get a house. I mean, we are out of the rental market because the rental market is outrageous.
Well, the best way to guard against increase in rent is home ownership, and that was the great American dream. Now we're building an entire
Now it's getting harder and harder.
Well, and I think it's part of by purpose is we have a lot of developers and a lot of financial interests that are actually building housing communities just to rent.
Yes.
So the rental industry is really taking over.
By the thousands.
They're taking over and they're pushing people out of home ownership, which is going to end up subjecting people to increased rent that are beyond their control. I'm a firm supporter of rural home ownership, and I think that's where the government can do assistance. And we are in Tampa, but I think that's where I'm going to double down on. Providing that first-time home buyer some assistance, matching funds, do it through RFP, getting rid of city-owned property to subsidize the cost of construction and houses to make it more affordable to people. We're doing those types of programs, and I'm a big fan of those things. These leg up, hand up kind of programs, I think, is the way of the future, and it's a way of guarding us against
I'm happy
rent
with the mayor
escalation.
saying, when the developers come in here and they want to build these 200 unit, complexes, they have to have some that are affordable and workforce.
Well, it's interesting, there's preemption on that, so we can't mandate things, but they have, and the administration has done a good job of working with these developers to include these segments of course, some people would laugh at what is defined as affordable, but working with them to have set aside units for subsidized rents or subsidized costs. The problem is, and that's kind of more of the workplace or workforce housing, and not necessarily the single mom that's working at Walmart.
And the seniors who
and that's a good thing, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times in this discussion we forget about the aging population.
Yes.
We forget about it when we talk about transportation. We forget about it when we talk about the food deserts, which a lot of our communities have. Excuse me. We forget about it when we talk about housing. And none of us are getting any younger. Eventually we're all going to find ourselves in a situation where
we're living on a pension if you have one, or Social Security.
Maybe just Social Security for
for
a lot of members of our community.
Mm-hmm.
And then where are you going to live? How are you going to get to your doctor's appointments? How are you going to get to the drugstore? How are you going to get to a supermarket? And this is where a just society and a wealthy society really does need to step up. When we talk about children, we talk about disabled, we talk about our senior citizens. The weakest part.
That's another population, the disabled.
The disabled. We as a just society, as a wealthy society, we need to have a social safety net to help take care of these folks. It's our, under God, it's our duty and our responsibility. And shame on us if we don't rise to that challenge.
Okay, here's another hot topic. Transportation. It's in the news now that our governor again, DeSantis, has decided that he's going to return all the money all for transportation that was collected, $500 million. Half will go to roads and sidewalks, but half is going to be returned because he doesn't want any money going for mass transportation. There we go. The Republicans have said it out loud, have said the quiet part out loud.
It never ceases to amaze me the depth that some of these folks will go to score political points at the expense of working women and men in the state of Florida. And time again.
And this is specifically Hillsborough County for this. Yeah.
But this particular issue is Hillsborough County. But his political scorecard is across this. The damage that's done is across the state of Florida.
Yes.
When I read that in the paper, I was shocked. But then again, I wasn't shocked because honestly, I expect so little out of the governor's mansion of the legislature at this point.
I guess we were lucky we got some money for roads and sidewalks.
Let's see how they
And
disperse.
intersections.
Let's see how they disperse it and what communities benefit from it, and then I'll say we're lucky or not. I guarantee you, some of the communities that we all love and cherish probably will not be on the receiving end of those funds. But I guarantee you, there's some areas that have "Make America Great Again" signs in the yard that will. So I'm concerned about they'll do anything, and it's disappointing. I was very disappointed that All for Transportation failed. That was a huge windfall for Hillsborough County. It was an ability for us to meet these needs of working people, to move them from their house to their workplace or to the drugstore, senior citizens to a grocery store. Its failure was a great loss, and unfortunately, with the loss of the county commission, I don't see it coming back anytime soon.
Okay, we'll be back with another hot topic about the police.
Hi, it's Angela Birdsong, and I want to recommend highly that if you're an attorney, that you get a quote for errors and omissions insurance from Sam Cohen at Attorneys First. He's had over 20 years of experience, and he knows how to work with attorneys. Call him at 727-799-4321.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecue? Come see them two brothers in the grill,
no, not the
located at
barbecue.
423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork,
Did I
brisket,
tell you I'm a
collard
healthy
greens,
life?
mac and cheese, baby.
No,
Come
I
get
said I'm a
some
healthy
and
life
get you a
baby.
nice, smooth
Yes, you
cigar.
did.
Yes, and do you know that
304-550-4431.
diabetes, heart attack, and stroke
That
can
is
affect your
304-550-4431. Come get some, baby.
You might not
The
even be
Rim
able to
Man,
get it.
Mama, the
That's
Rim
exactly
Man.
right.
By now, we're all aware
That
of the
is
dangers
exactly
of
right.
COVID-19.
You gotta be
Like
careful.
others with existing health issues, cancer patients are at a
Dog
high
on
risk
shame.
due to their compromised condition.
It's one of the worst
If you are
things.
newly diagnosed with cancer, your care likely
Look.
can't wait.
You know,
Moffitt
it
Cancer
is.
Center
You
is
might as
the
well
best
forget
place
that.
for your cancer concerns
No.
and to provide
just need to
guidance
eat in
to help
moderation.
you
Eat in
plan your
moderation.
next steps.
All right, we're
We're
back.
here for you.
We are back.
Call
Yay, here we go.
1-888-456-2839 or go to moffitt.org/here for you.
And we're back. Can you believe it's our last segment?
No, time flies when you're having fun, and of course, sitting with Angela Birdsong is always a great way to spend the morning.
And we're here with Alan Clendenin, who has stepped up to be your next city councilman. Okay, we got, the whole thing with Mary O'Connor. She was dismissed. We're looking for a new chief of police. And we got this the community advisory board on the table. So let's talk police.
Let's talk police. What do you want to talk about? Is
Okay.
there anything happening with the police? I don't know. I don't know. Did I miss something in the
Do you
news?
have an opinion about getting a new police chief?
Well, let me say I would not have voted for Mary O'Connell for the police chief last time. My opponent,
Okay.
my opponent did, and it's based on other information that I, was aware of that wasn't necessarily in the public spotlight, but city council people did know, but they still went ahead and did this, and ended up becoming a national embarrassment for the city of Tampa.
They did. That tape went viral.
Yeah, it
They're
was-
on the golf course.
All 50 states and world. It was at World News.
Wow.
So it was, we just can't. It's one of those unforced errors that
Yes.
we can't afford. We can't afford to make as a city. And, it's unfortunate, and I feel for Mary. She's a very nice woman. I mean, I don't know if you have the privilege to meet her. She's a wonderful human being and stuff. But there's some things you just can't come back from, and some things you just can't do. I mean, there's jobs and stuff I can't get because of certain, but it doesn't make me
They
a bad.
gave her a second chance.
Exactly.
After
Well,
DUI.
honestly, it wasn't just the DUI. It was a lot of other stuff. But
Okay.
it was, I'm actually okay with giving people second chances. I think everybody deserves a second chance, especially after some time has passed. And people, if people have, done the right thing and take proof positive steps that you're moving in the right direction, I think everybody deserves a second chance. I'm not one to cast stones.
What do you see in the future for the police chief?
I don't know. The mayor's doing a search, and it'll come before council once again. It probably won't come to council until this next council, so I'll probably be sitting in that seat. I'm going to look for somebody, and my vote will be determined of, is that person going to represent the whole community? Is that person going to be accountable? Is that person going to be out in the community talking to people? Are they going to encourage a workforce, a police force, that is, as they recruit and bring people on that looks like the community? I would like to see people hired from the community they represent, so that it's more relatable. I'm really on board with what I think we've lost is some community policing policies. Getting our police officers on the street, walking, talking to people, building relationships. Going to schools, meeting with kids, and building trust, and also holding accountability.
I believe they're bringing back the police athletic league.
Yeah, and that's really exciting. Well, Mary was doing that,
I
our former
see.
police chief. She was doing that. I think the next police chief needs to pick up that and run with it, because I think that,
Getting kids to interact with police officers
Right.
through athletics.
through athletics. I mean, athletics is a really important part of the social construct. You learn a lot as a kid. You learn a lot about life and a lot about interaction with people through athletics. And I think it's really important. And also, it gives kids something to do. If they're out on the field, on the basketball court, or they're on a football field playing flag,
That's right.
they're
They can't be doing the other
they're
stuff.
not up to mischief. And so, mischief today could lead to something else tomorrow. So we keep them busy, keep their minds alert, keep them involved in a positive way.
We have a lot of good guys on the force who could be mentors.
100%, and that's what I think. That's the theory of the police political agencies is mentoring. When I was actually a younger man, I was a mentor for kids that were in trouble with law enforcement. So they would have a minor run-in, and instead of going to juvie, they would come to me.
Okay.
I was the alternative, and
We
I was,
need more alternatives.
and I was like, I wasn't a Big Brother program, but it was like a Big Brother.
Yes.
They could call, talk to me. I would take them out on weekends and do things, and give them a little bit of an adult influence and a positive influence. And it was a highlight of my younger clients.
That can change a life. Thank you for doing that.
I hope so.
You took in foster kids when I was growing up, so everybody can do their part.
Absolutely. I understand your dad was a police officer.
And my father was a police officer, and he
Yeah.
was a very good mentor to me.
Good, good.
I mean, we don't hate the police. Like you were saying to me before, we all want safe neighborhoods, and it's just that those bad actors, we got to get them off the force. They're bad for everybody.
Exactly. I think it doesn't matter where you live, what part of town you live in. Everybody wants to be able to walk out of their house or sleep in their bed at night and feel safe. So, and part of that safety mechanism is law enforcement, and good law enforcement is important to a community. I think, just like any group or workplace, you always have a few bad actors, and I think the important thing is accountability. We have to hold people accountable. When you have bad actors, you don't stand behind bad actors.
And we can't let them to go to another police force.
No, and I think that's important. But I'll be honest with you, just, speak on behalf of TAMPA. I think generally, there's always going to be exceptions. Some things will happen, people will fall through the cracks, and we'll get it. But generally, in the city of Tampa, our police force is pretty good. We've got a lot of good people in there. It's a diverse workforce.
Okay, and I can't let you go without talking about the community board.
Citizens Review Board.
Citizens Review Board.
Right. Yeah, there's a proposal that City Council passed to give the Citizens Review Board a private attorney. I fully support that. I think that seems to be a no-brainer. Having counsel independent for the board I think is an important step towards trust and accountability. The mayor decided to veto it. The City Council overrode that veto, so it will be on the ballot for voters to cast on the same ballot I'm on. So there's going to be all these charter amendments on the ballot. That is going to be one of them, and I fully support the independent council.
Now, how do you feel about subpoena power?
That's a more complicated issue, and I know a lot of people. There's a lot of in the community. There's a lot of people talking about this, and I've had a lot of phone calls and done a lot of research about it. My concern is civil liberties. I'm the guy that always worries about giving government too much power, and these are politically appointed people. And we know who they are today, but who are they going to be tomorrow? We've seen the United States under Donald Trump take this hard right turn and use the judicial system as political weapons against people. We see it in the state of Florida with the governor.
DeSantis.
Exactly.
Arresting people for voting.
Exactly.
Trying to hit teachers with felonies.
I don't know what tomorrow brings with the city government and who's going to be sitting in those seats and who's going to make those appointments. I think if we're going to do something like that, there needs to be guardrails to protect the citizens from that subpoena power. I don't want it to be weaponized by politicians. I think if it is weaponized, we know who they're going to exploit and who they're going to target. It's going to be the folks that they've always targeted. It's going to be our black population. It's going to be our poor population. It's going to be people they perceive to be not part of their political aspirations or supporters. And the people they use as a scapegoat. That's who they're going to target. And until that issue is resolved, I'm not comfortable giving them unrestrained power to subpoena your private information, your private cameras that you have on your building, and have them, this quasi-government agency, be able to review those cameras and maybe identify something your neighbor's doing and target them. I mean, I don't know. I'm not comfortable giving the power of subpoena to a political appointed board out Barbara.
Well, let me give you an opportunity to just tell the people why they ought to vote for Alan Clendenin. Do you need money? Do you need volunteers? How can we help you?
Well, one, I don't think there's a politician who will ever take a microphone and tell you they don't need money. I think you know something about that, Angela. Yeah, money is, unfortunately, especially I'm running citywide, so it's a huge city. to be able to get your message out, to be able to talk to people, and with the exception of things like this, which is really nice. You get to be able to reach a lot of folks, and that you don't have to pay for.
Share, share, share.
Yeah, exactly. Share this, share this, share this.
Well,
if you like what I said, share it. If you don't.
Either way, sharing.
There's two different perspectives. I'm running for city council again because I've been frustrated, just like a lot of folks with government. I've been involved politically, helping other people get elected most of my life. I mean, really, almost all my adult life. But I've been frustrated. If you've gone down to city council, if you've watched it on TV, you'll see that we have folks, including the person that's sitting in the seat I'm running against, Joe Citro, is being disrespectful to people. You go down to public comment, and he is downright rude. He's mean. He's overly aggressive. And as Orlando Good says, he doesn't respect even the people that sit on the dais with him. He doesn't respect. I mean, in fact, I think I quote Orlando, who says he treated these co-workers like garbage. And you know what? That wasn't even political speak. That's an actual fact. Joe Citro is one person. He doesn't work with anybody else. Doesn't work well with anybody else. Quite frankly, nobody else up there wants to work with him. Again, if anybody's had the opportunity to go down and sit at city council and listen or provide public comment, you've seen this behavior. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. I've watched this. 4 years ago, I ran. I missed it by 54 votes. I got rid of everything because I had no intention of running again. I was going to enjoy life. I'm retired of traffic control. I don't work it anymore. I was going to enjoy life and sit back, relax, enjoy my grandbaby, and do all those things. But for the last 4 years, I've watched this dysfunction from this person. I've watched his votes. I've watched what he's done. I've watched who he's represent. I've seen his life. He doesn't represent me, and I don't think he represents you. I think he represents himself. And I question his motivation. I question what he does. I question everything about him. And so I got together with some of the folks that ran last time. I said, we need somebody to run against this guy this time. We got to take this guy out because it's not good for the city of Tampa. It's not good for the people that live here. We all got together. I drew the short straw. Tag, I'm it. So and by the way, everybody we had a 5-person race last time. Everybody's endorsing me. Walter Smith is endorsing me. Craig Newman is endorsing me. David Luce is endorsing me. Everybody in that race is endorsing me because they see it too. They lived it. They watched it. He was so disrespectful of us in the last race. We would all be, sitting around, hanging out, talking like decent human beings do. Joe would sit off by himself. He wouldn't talk to anybody else. He won't even acknowledge if I walk in the room. I'll say hello. We'll not even get the common decency that God gave most of us to say hello back. He'll just shrug and grunt and whip his neck around. So, yeah, I'm passionate about it. He's the wrong person for the job. He's the wrong person for Tampa, and I'm running to fix that.
Okay, that's your camera over there.
Nope.
Tell the people just how how they can get hold of you and what they can do for you. Volunteer?
Yeah, actually, the election's March 7th. We're coming up on it pretty quickly. Absentee ballots are out in the mail. We are walking and knocking on doors. We're dropping off our palm cards. And if anybody wants to get in touch with us, AlanClendenin.com. So it's AlanClendenin.com. My email is alan@alanclendenin.com. My telephone number is 813-495-7751. 813-495-7751. That is my private mobile number, so don't share it with anybody else.
Like you just did.
Exactly, like I just did. But yeah, so you can text me at that or call me, and I'll get you in touch. We've got a good team together to make this happen.
Do you have a campaign manager?
I do. His name is Matt Sandlin. He's a good kid, 24 years old, and full of energy, and he's really good. I've got a really good team of folks together helping me out on this, and I've got a good group of volunteers and supporters.
But you need more.
But we need, always use more. And sign locations. If I can put up a sign in your yard, let me know. We'll get a sign out to you. I know it sounds silly about signs, but it actually matters because it helps with name ID. Let's say you're going in to vote for Guido, or you're going in because he's a friend of yours, or you're going into Orlando, and but you look at all these other names you don't know. A lot of people will just the last name they saw, and that's why signs are so important, because it's name
It's
ID.
an endorsement. It's your neighbor's endorsement.
Absolutely.
It
And
is.
so it's if you have a sign location, you know somebody would put up a sign, let us know. We'll get one up within a day or two. You can text me or call me either way, or email me. You know, we're doing actually pretty good on money. I could always use more, but we're doing pretty good on money. What I really want is
More
your
money,
support.
more money.
What I really ask you for above everything else is your vote and your confidence that I'll represent you. I'll always have an open ear. You can call me. That's my cell phone number. You can call me anytime when you have concerns about the city government and how they're treating you, or how they're reacting, and how it's influencing your lives. I promise I'll be responsive, and I promise I'll represent you in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Alan Clendenin, for taking the time
Thank you,
to
Angela.
talk to the people. All
Thank you.
right.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.